The hospital called at 2:47 a.m. I remember the exact time because I'd been watching the clock, timing contractions. "Mrs. Patterson, this is Memorial Hospital. Your husband is here. There's been a situation. You need to come immediately." My water had broken 3 hours earlier. I was supposed to be the one in that hospital. Instead, I was home alone, 7 centimeters dilated, being told my husband was already there, with someone else. The nurse's voice had that careful quality, like she was reading from a script designed not to cause panic. But I heard what she wasn't saying in the pauses between her words. I threw clothes over my nightgown, grabbed my hospital bag, and called an Uber. The contractions were coming every 4 minutes now. I had time. Barely. The fluorescent lights of Memorial Hospital made everything look sickly and surreal. I waddled to the information desk, my belly leading the way like a ship's prow. "I'm looking for my husband, Marcus Patterson. I got a call." The receptionist's eyes widened slightly. She'd been expecting me. "Room 304, maternity wing." Maternity wing. The word hit me like a physical blow. Not emergency, not intensive care, maternity. I made my way to the elevator, each step feeling like I was walking underwater. A contraction gripped me as the doors closed, and I braced myself against the wall, breathing through it. When I opened my eyes, a candy striper was staring at me with concern. "Ma'am, are you—" "I'm fine," I said, though we both knew I wasn't. The third floor smelled like disinfectant and new beginnings. Room 304 was at the end of a long corridor. Through the small window in the door, I could see Marcus pacing. His shirt was wrinkled, his tie loosened. He looked like he'd been there for hours. I pushed open the door. He turned, and the color drained from his face. "Sarah, Don't." My voice came out calmer than I felt. "Just tell me what room she's in." His mouth opened and closed. Then, 306. 2 doors down. 2 doors between my life and whatever was waiting in that room. I left him standing there and walked to 306. My hand was steady as I pushed open the door. The woman in the bed was Diane Cooper, my best friend since college, my maid of honor, the godmother I'd already chosen for the baby I was about to have. She was in a hospital gown, hooked up to monitors, her belly swollen and round, 8 months pregnant. Just like me. Our eyes met across the room. In that moment, I watched 20 years of friendship evaporate like morning dew. I saw the exact moment she understood that I knew. "Sarah," she whispered. I looked at the monitor beside her bed. Fetal heart rate, steady. Then at the date on the whiteboard. Due date, December 18th. My due date was December 20th, 2 days apart. The timeline assembled itself in my mind with brutal clarity. The conception dates would overlap. The first trimester nausea we'd commiserated about. The maternity yoga classes we'd taken together. All of it. We'd been pregnant by the same man at the same time, sharing symptoms and comparing notes, and I'd thought we were sharing a beautiful moment of parallel motherhood. "How long?" I asked. "Sarah, please. How long?" 2 years. Her voice broke. "I'm so sorry. Another contraction hit me, harder this time. I gripped the door frame, breathing through it. Diane tried to sit up, old instincts kicking in, but I held up my hand. Don't you dare." Marcus appeared in the doorway. "Sarah, let me explain." "You have 5 minutes," I said, looking at my watch. "Then I'm going to the delivery floor to have our baby. Talk." What followed was the most surreal 5 minutes of my life. Marcus and Diane, alternating between excuses and apologies, painting a picture of betrayal so complete it was almost artistic in its thoroughness. It started at a work conference 2 years ago. One drink, one mistake, one secret that multiplied until it was a whole second life. They'd tried to end it. Multiple times. But then Diane got pregnant. "I was going to tell you," Marcus said. "After the baby came, I'd already filed for divorce papers. I just wanted to wait until..." "Until what? Until I'd recovered from childbirth?" How thoughtful. I felt weirdly calm, like I was watching this happen to someone else. Another contraction rolled through me. 3 minutes apart now. "I need to go," I said. "I need to deliver my baby now. Sarah, I'll come with you, Marcus started. No. The word came out like a gunshot. You've been with her for 2 years. Stay with her now. I walked out. Behind me, I heard Diane crying and Marcus calling my name, but I didn't turn around. I made it to the nurse's station before my knees buckled. A nurse caught me. Easy there, honey. How far apart are your contractions? 2.5 minutes, I gasped. I need a delivery room. Now. They rushed me into room 312. In the chaos of prep and monitors and checking dilation, I had a single moment of clarity. I pulled out my phone and texted my sister Margaret. At Memorial Hospital. Baby coming. Marcus is in room 304. Long story. Come now. Then I turned off my phone and focused on bringing my daughter into the world. Emma Margaret Patterson was born at 6:23 a.m., weighing 7 pounds 4 ounces. She had my nose and Marcus's dark hair and absolutely no idea that her father was 2 floors away with another woman who was about to have his child. I held her and felt my heart crack and mend simultaneously. Crack because of what had just been destroyed. Mend because of what I was holding. Hi, baby girl, I whispered. It's just you and me now, but that's going to be enough. I promise you that's going to be enough. Margaret arrived at 7 a.m. with my mother and a lawyer. You texted me you were in labor and that Marcus was in a different room, Margaret said, bursting through the door. What the actual... I told them. Briefly. Clinically. While Emma slept in my arms. My mother's face went through about 15 different expressions before settling on cold fury. Margaret started typing on her phone immediately. I'm calling Stephen, she said. Stephen was her husband, one of the best divorce attorneys in the city. Don't sign anything. Don't talk to Marcus. Don't. I know, I said. I need to ask you something, and I need you to not judge me. They both looked at me. I need to see Diane's baby when it's born. Absolutely not, my mother said. Sarah, why would you? Margaret started. Because I need to know, I said. I need to see if that baby looks like Emma. I need to know if Marcus is the father. Margaret's expression shifted. Oh, that's actually smart. We waited. Margaret went down to do reconnaissance and came back with information. Diane's in labor. Probably another few hours. Marcus is with her. I didn't see him. Good, I said. Emma woke up hungry. I fed her, changed her, memorized every detail of her perfect little face. My daughter. Mine. Whatever else was happening, this was mine. At 2:15 p.m., Margaret's phone buzzed. She looked at it, then at me. Diane had a boy. 6 pounds, 11 ounces. We waited 30 minutes. Long enough for Diane to be settled, but not so long that she'd be sleeping. Long enough for Marcus to maybe leave for coffee. Long enough for me to compose myself. I'm going to see the baby, I said. Sarah, my mother started. Stay with Emma. I need to do this. I walked down the hall in my hospital gown and slippers, pushing my IV pole. I felt disconnected from my body, like I was operating on autopilot. Room 306. The door was ajar. Marcus wasn't there. Just Diane, looking exhausted and small in the hospital bed, holding a tiny blue bundle. I pushed the door open. She looked up. Tears started immediately. Sarah, please. I know you don't want to see me, but I want to see the baby. She blinked. What? Your baby. I want to see him. Slowly, like she thought I might attack her, Diane pulled back the blanket. The baby's face was scrunched and red, eyes closed, dark hair, small nose. I stared at him for a long time. He looked like Emma. Same hairline, same little ears, same way of pursing his lips even while sleeping. Marcus was the father. Of course he was. I'd known, but seeing it confirmed in this tiny face made something inside me crystallize into cold certainty. What's his name? I asked. James, Diane whispered. After my father. I looked at her then, really looked at her. Diane, who'd been my roommate sophomore year. Diane, who'd helped me pick out my wedding dress. Diane, who'd held my hair back when I had morning sickness and told me I was going to be an amazing mother. You took 2 years of my life, I said quietly. Every time you sat at my dinner table, every Christmas, every birthday, you looked me in the face and lied. I know, she sobbed. I know. And I hate myself. No, I interrupted. You don't get to hate yourself. That's too easy. That's an escape. I paused. Another contraction of a different sort grief, maybe passing through me. I don't want Marcus back. You can have him. But you need to understand something. She looked up at me, eyes red. That baby deserves better than this. Emma deserves better than this. Whatever happens between the adults, those kids didn't ask for any of it. I swallowed hard. I'm going to file for divorce. I'm going to take everything I'm legally entitled to. And I'm going to raise my daughter to be stronger than all of us. I turned to leave, then stopped at the door. Marcus expected me to fall apart, to scream and beg and make a scene. But I'm not going to give him that. My silence is going to be louder than any words I could say. And years from now, when he realizes what he lost, he's going to remember that I walked away with dignity. I left her there, crying, and walked back to my room where Emma was waiting. The next 3 days in the hospital were surreal. Marcus tried to visit. I had the nurses turn him away. He sent flowers. I gave them to other patients. He sent a letter. I burned it in the bathroom sink and flushed the ashes. Margaret and Stephen worked on divorce papers. My mother handled logistics, setting up a nursery at her house temporarily, packing up my things from the house I'd shared with Marcus, calling my work to extend my maternity leave. On day 2, something unexpected happened. Diane appeared at my door, alone. She looked terrible, pale, exhausted, like she hadn't slept. "Please," she said, "just 5 minutes." I should have said no, but curiosity got the better of me. 3 minutes. She sat down in the chair by my bed, careful not to wake Emma, who was sleeping in her bassinet. "Marcus told me he'd left you 6 months ago. He said you were separated, working on divorce papers, that you'd mutually agreed to wait until after the baby came." I stared at her. "And you believed him?" "I was stupid. I'm not making excuses. She took a shaky breath. "He told me the same thing about you he's telling you about me now. That it meant nothing, that he was confused, that he made a mistake." Something cold settled in my stomach. "How long did you say the affair lasted?" 2 years. "But Sarah, I found his phone last night. There are others. A woman in Atlanta. Someone named Kelly from his gym. Text messages going back 3 years. The room seemed to tilt. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because neither of us deserved this. Because we've been friends since we were 19 years old, and even though I destroyed that, I owe you the truth." She looked at me with something desperate in her eyes. "And because I can't do this alone, I have no family here. My parents disowned me when they found out. I have no money," Marcus said. "He'd take care of everything. But now he's saying I have to wait until the divorce is final. That's not my problem." "I know." She stood up. "I know it's not. I just thought you should know what you're really divorcing. Not a man who made one mistake. A serial cheater who's going to do this again and again." She left. I sat there holding Emma, my mind racing. That night, I did something I never thought I'd do. I called Stephen, Margaret's husband, the lawyer. "I need you to investigate Marcus Patterson. Every account, every credit card, every asset. If he's been hiding money or living a double life, I want to know everything." "Already on it," Stephen said. "Found some interesting property records. Looks like your husband owns a condo in Miami you might not know about." Miami. Marcus had work conferences in Miami. 4 times a year. "Find out who lives there," I said. The investigation took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of learning to be a mother, of living with my mother and Margaret, of night feedings and diaper changes and the strange cocoon of early motherhood. 3 weeks of not hearing from Marcus except through lawyers. And then Stephen called me into his office. "Sit down," he said, which is never a good sign. The folder he opened revealed a life I'd never known existed. Marcus had been living a double life for 4 years, not 2. The condo in Miami was registered under an LLC. He'd been funneling money into offshore accounts. There were credit card statements showing jewelry purchases I'd never received, hotel stays in cities he'd never mentioned visiting. But the worst part? The condo in Miami was occupied by a woman named Rebecca Torres and her daughter. The daughter's name was Isabella. She was 3 years old. Birth certificate listed father, Marcus Patterson. I had a stepdaughter I'd never met. "There's more," Stephen said quietly. The property records show he bought that condo 6 months after you got married. I sat there, Emma in my arms, learning that my entire marriage had been a lie from almost the very beginning. How much is he worth? I asked, my voice eerily calm. Stephen slid another paper across. A number. A very large number. Way more than I'd ever known about. Can we get it? Most of it, Stephen said. Hidden assets in a divorce are a gift. The judge is going to crucify him. I looked down at Emma. She was staring up at me with those wide, dark eyes, so trusting, so innocent. She deserved better than this. Better than a father who collected families like some people collected stamps. Take him for everything, I said. Except, Stephen raised an eyebrow. Except? Set up a trust for Isabella, the 3-year-old. She didn't ask for this either. And, I paused, set up a trust for James, Diane's baby. Sarah, you don't owe them. It's not about owing anyone. It's about those kids. Emma's going to grow up with everything she needs. The other kids should too. Margaret, who'd come to the meeting with me, squeezed my hand. You're a better person than most. No, I said. I'm just tired of men like Marcus using money as a weapon. If he wants to abandon his kids, fine. But they'll have something when they turn 18. The divorce took 6 months. It was ugly. Marcus tried every tactic, claimed the money wasn't his, that I'd known about the other women, that I was an unfit mother. But Stephen was better. Much better. In the end, I got the house. Emma's trust fund was set up with enough to pay for college and then some, and Marcus got supervised visitation. The judge was a woman who'd clearly seen men like Marcus before. Her face when she reviewed the evidence was terrifying. Mr. Patterson, she said, you have demonstrated a pattern of deception, financial abuse, and abandonment. You're lucky your ex-wife is kind enough to ensure your children won't suffer for your mistakes. Marcus tried to catch my eye as we left the courtroom. I looked right through him. He didn't exist to me anymore. He was just a name on legal documents, a check that arrived once a month, a lesson in what not to settle for. On Emma's first birthday, something unexpected happened. Diane called me. We hadn't spoken since the hospital. I'd heard through mutual friends that she'd moved back to her hometown, that she was working as a freelance graphic designer, that Marcus had stopped paying child support and she was struggling. I don't know why I'm calling, she said, her voice small. I just wanted you to know that James asks about Emma sometimes. He has a picture from the hospital we were born 2 days apart. He calls her his special friend. I looked at Emma, who was demolishing a smash cake with the joy only a 1-year-old can muster. How are you doing? Barely keeping my head above water. Marcus disappeared. I heard he's in Miami with some woman named Rebecca. His lawyer says the trust you set up for James is the only money we'll ever see. I made a decision then. One that Margaret would call crazy and my mother would question, but that felt right in my gut. What if I told you I might have a job opportunity? My company is looking for a graphic designer, remote position, good benefits. Silence on the other end. Then, Sarah, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. For James. Not for you, not for us, for him. More silence. Then, quietly, I don't deserve your kindness. No, I agreed. You don't, but your son deserves a chance, so does mine, and maybe, in some twisted way, they deserve to know their brother. That conversation led to another, then another. Slowly, carefully, with boundaries as thick as castle walls, we began to rebuild something. Not friendship that was gone, burned beyond repair, but maybe something like understanding. Mutual survival. 2 women who'd been screwed over by the same man, choosing to not let him win. A year later, Emma and James had their first play date. It was awkward as hell. Diane and I barely spoke, keeping conversation to logistics and weather. But the boys, they played together like any other kids. Built blocks, shared snacks, laughed. Emma toddled over to me and patted my leg. Mama, James nice. Yeah, baby, I said, smoothing her hair. He is. Diane left after 2 hours, thanking me quietly at the door. We still weren't friends. Might never be again. But we were something. 2 mothers doing their best in a situation that had been designed to break us. Now, Emma's 5. She starts kindergarten next month. She's smart and funny and kind, with my stubbornness and, unfortunately, Marcus's charm. She knows she has a half-brother named James. She knows her father lives far away and doesn't visit much. She knows, in the simple way kids understand things, that our family looks different than some others. "Mama," she asked me last week, "why doesn't Daddy live here?" I pulled her onto my lap. "Because sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, and your daddy made some really big ones. But those mistakes brought me you, and you're the best thing that ever happened to me. Do you hate Daddy?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "No, baby. I don't hate him. I just don't think about him very much anymore." And it was true. Marcus had moved to Miami permanently. He saw Emma twice a year, sent checks through lawyers, existed at the periphery of our life like a shadow that only appeared at noon. I'd heard through the grapevine that Rebecca left him, that he was on his fourth or fifth serious girlfriend, that he was exactly who I always suspected he was. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed. If I'd believed his apologies, accepted the flowers, let him explain. Would I be stuck in that loop of betrayal and forgiveness, never quite trusting, never quite leaving? But then Emma laughs at something silly, or brings me a picture she drew at school, or falls asleep with her head on my shoulder, and I know the answer. That night at the hospital, when I was 7 centimeters dilated and discovered my husband's betrayal in the most spectacular way possible, I made a choice: not to scream, not to beg, not to fall apart in the way everyone expected. I chose to walk away. To take my dignity and my daughter and build something new from the rubble of what had been destroyed. Marcus thought sorry was a magic word. I showed him it was just a word. Diane wanted my life. I gave her my leftovers and kept the only part that mattered. And forgiveness? Forgiveness might come someday. But trust? Trust is earned, and neither are for sale anymore. The best revenge wasn't destroying Marcus. It was living so well without him that he became irrelevant. It was raising a daughter who would never accept less than she deserved. It was looking at the woman who betrayed me and choosing compassion over cruelty, not because she earned it, but because my daughter was watching. Emma's in her room now, singing to her stuffed animals, conducting an elaborate tea party. In a few minutes, I'll call her for dinner. We'll eat and talk about her day and read stories before bed. It's a small life, maybe not the one I imagined, but it's mine, completely, absolutely mine. And some nights, when Emma's asleep and the house is quiet, I think about that woman in the hospital at 2:47 a.m., the one who got the call, the one who was about to have her world imploded, and I want to tell her, "You're going to survive this. More than survive, you're going to build something beautiful from the ashes. Just wait." The phone rings. It's Margaret, calling about weekend plans. Emma runs in, demanding I come see her tea party immediately. The dishwasher beeps. Life continues, mundane and magical and completely mine. I smile, answer the phone, and let my daughter pull me into her imaginary world where stuffed animals have elaborate backstories and every problem can be solved with plastic cupcakes. This is what winning looks like, not revenge, not destruction, but this, ordinary moments, hard-won peace, and a little girl who will never doubt she's loved. Marcus took 2 years of my life through lies. I took the rest of it back through truth. And in the end, that was the only victory that mattered.